So welcome.
Okay, let's go to it. Okay.
Welcome. We have with us today, guys. We got Jake Scali, of course, very familiar face, friend, great friend of the pod, and of course, he has brought today with us a man of many talents. Bobby, welcome. Welcome to the show.
I'm actually Jake's dad, which is funny.
Yes.
What I said.
Awesome.
You didn't say that.
You didn't say that. You just said he was a man of many
I think he was
talents.
worried about saying it in a sensual voice instead of just actually introducing him correctly.
Yeah, I guess so. Jake's dad, Bobby, is with us, guys. Here we go.
Yeah, you're in for a hot one today, for sure. Because before we even started this podcast, we were just... Jake's dad was telling us some stories, and I can't wait to get into it. So obviously, you're his dad.
Yeah.
You know, and Jake's a character. I like Jake a lot.
Do you know, I wouldn't be here unless Jake said, "Hey, Dad, will you do this?" Because I was, when I train law enforcement, as you know, for a living. But Jake called me up and goes, "Hey, can you do this podcast with my friends? I want to ask you some questions." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So we got here a little early. And we go across the street to Dunkin' Donuts, and we get all these Dunkin' Donuts girls in there saying, "We know you." Yeah. And it was kind of strange to me.
It's weird
when they notice him. And I was like, "What?" Like, and they were like, "Oh yeah."
It's inspired. It makes me want to keep making.
Well, it's got to make you a little proud.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Absolutely.
he likes what he does, and I say, do what my life has been totally unconventional. So how can I say to him,
you can't.
Hey, don't do what I did.
And he's good at it.
Yeah, he's good at it.
If he sucked at it, then you'd be like, maybe you should go to school or something. You know?
Wasting our fucking time.
You know, you should. I think the Dunkin' Donuts is hiring if you want to get an application while we're here.
Or if anything, he would just be like, "Stop." And then just give him a list of things. Like
everything today is social media, right?
Yeah. Everything, yeah.
Even I connect in my business social media. You know, people, and it's funny because like I was training law enforcement at Jake. I used Jake one time to come and do the training.
Yeah,
that's
and
too funny,
he became the thug in the hallway, or the thug.
he was like, all right, we're gonna go to this training thing. I need your help. And it just ended up to them throwing me around for the video. You should see the footage. They
chasing him down. They were chasing him down, handcuffing him, and he looked like such a good criminal. I was like, wow, this is great.
He's like, Dad, I did not agree to this. Not one iota.
That is so funny. Wait, so you just became like the model thug and everything that they were doing. Like, this is how we take somebody, you know. Or
they were throwing me on the ground. They were slamming me up against walls. Like, I was like, make it look real. Like, we only get one shot, and the dude did it really good. It was funny.
And then I use that footage for our national commercials that we send out to all the people all over the United States.
That's awesome.
They love it, and he looks like a real criminal.
That is so
cool.
So you're getting screen time we're not even getting screen time.
Yeah, he was like, I need your help. I'm like, all right, I got you. And
at least they didn't tase you.
No, I said they could. I was like, if you guys have
of course you did.
We'll get a viral video on that.
It's going to be funny when someone recognizes you, like, yo, Uncle Dino's getting tossed around in this promotion.
One of them did.
The girl that was there that was the cop did recognize.
She did. And that, again, strange to me. I'm like, what?
She's like, like Uncle Dino's like our model thug. And you're like, excuse me? Who's Uncle Dino?
I whip this guy around. I got tossed around like a rag doll.
We see more social media being used by like mainstream actors and celebrities, and I think a whole new genre is emerging of what you guys all do, right? And then
it's the
next wave because it's real life. It's people's lives are interesting. If we so that people see things. I have them all the time. They see movies, right? Like coming from Charlestown, where we're from. They see movies. Hey, the town, what was it like? Was it like that? And we kind of laugh, and I look at that, and I said, that was a love story.
It really
was. That wasn't violence. I mean, you want violence? Come to my house on Christmas.
Exactly.
They painted a pretty picture for people.
Oh my God, Yeah,
they did,
and I've had celebrity friends of mine that were there, like Brian and other celebrity friends that you've seen them on the big screen. And
Brian was in The Departed. Do you remember the scene where the cops follow Queen into the warehouse?
Yeah.
Remember the guy driving and he's like, we got Captain Queen and the
Oh,
boss.
yeah.
Yeah, he was in a bunch of stuff. He was in like Baby's Day Out.
Yeah, him,
before.
Joey Montana, they kidnap a baby. He was in a ton of movies. McHale's Navy, Gran Torino.
He played the son.
He played the son.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Brian Haley, great
Attack
guy.
on Mars. That was one of my favorite ones he was in. That was like the only one I liked talking to him about. Was
He's
Attack
been in
on
every
Mars.
movie
Mars
I see.
Attacks?
That was my
He's in all of it. He's in every
Oh,
single movie.
Oh, no way. I love that movie.
He played
Great
the
movie.
bodyguard. He was the security guy, like the Secret Service.
Yeah.
So when Brian comes, when he comes to Boston, I'll make sure to hook you guys up.
Yeah, that'd be
that'd be
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah,
That'd be
we'd love
awesome.
to have
That'd be
him.
great.
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
I love people that like, those character actors that you sometimes you can't put the name on the face.
Yeah.
You
He
know
was
what I
in
mean? But
Wings.
you're like,
He was
I
in
know this
Wings.
guy in everything. He's been in everything.
Spud in Wings, right?
Yeah, he was in
That his name,
Maggie
Spud.
Winters. He was a bartender. He just does everything.
He's in everything.
But it's also one of those guys that's been in a room with with a lot of different people.
Everybody.
Exactly.
He
right.
knows everybody.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. He knows everybody, so he knows a
You
lot.
know they got
so-
stories.
exactly. So you know that they've
You got stories.
they've been talked and had like crazy encounters as themselves with whoever, and you would never think you'd be like, wait, this guy was here. Like you were just saying, like in so many different things.
I would be out somewhere, and I remember just with Brian really quick, girls would walk up and they'd say, hey, I've seen your movie. You're blown, so-and-so and so-and-so. And he's like, yeah. And he said, he looks at me and he goes, isn't it weird when the daughters of they're like young daughters are now coming up to us? And he said, holy smoke. Like,
Yeah, that's
these
crazy.
are kids that said, oh, I saw you in, he's played Spike's dad in some.
Oh, Little Giant.
Little
That was his biggest
Giants.
role. You guys have definitely seen Little
yes.
Giants. Remember the
Yeah.
dude who's like, this is my son, and puts his arm
Yes,
up against
yeah.
the refrigerator
Yes.
and he's doing a pull-up? That's Brian.
Yes.
He's awesome.
That was his probably most recognizable
I
role.
think
Oh,
definitely for
Little
our
Giants,
age range.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
so you guys will know that.
Yes,
And as
exactly.
he gets older, he's still doing a lot of stuff. And
I told him I told him I liked that movie when I was a kid, and before when he was shooting The Departed, he stayed at our house and he gave me an autograph of that screenshot of him do a spud doing the
That's so
pull-up.
cool.
Yeah, but I know him, so he gave me the autograph. I'm like, get the fuck out of here! Who do you think you are? You know?
Yeah. Keep this shit.
You're sleeping on my fucking couch, Big Shot. All right?
You're like, relax.
Yeah.
that's actually
Oh, that's so great. That's so
I
great.
love Brian. He's the best.
Yeah, so basically, you have lived a very full life so far.
I think so.
I would just from our small conversation, we just first met and had maybe a 10-minute conversation, and we went through a list of things that you have accomplished in life and some really cool stuff. And I'd like to get into basically, why don't we start? When did you join? You were in the Army?
Yeah,
Is
so
that correct?
I'll tell you what happened. Like I'm older than I look, but in the late '70s during forced busing, when you see all the stuff that was going on in Boston, I was right in the middle of it, going to Charlestown High. So in 1980, I said, "Hey, Dad, I want to join the military." And he's like, "Oh, what do you want to do?" I said, "I want to go be a Green Beret." And he found that like, what? You don't even make your bed type of deal.
Yeah.
Why did you want to be a Green Beret?
It was, I think I wanted to test myself, like,
Right.
Coming from Charlestown, most of the guys were Marines. We always wanted to be kind of elite type of people. And this is the truth. I go to sign up for the Marine Corps originally, and I wanted to go to Force Recon. And what happened, it was during school. I went in, it was lunchtime. I walking down the hallway, Marine Corps is closed. Guys out getting lunch. As I'm walking by the Army guy, this is a no shit story. He says, "Psst, come here." I was like, "What? Me?" He's like, "Yeah, come on in. What are you doing at the Marine Corps?" I said, "Hey, I want to go to Force Recon." He said, "Hey, I got something for you. Check this out." He throws the old Betamax in. You can be paratroopers, blah, blah, blah. Then he brings up Special Forces, and I'm like, "Yeah, I want that. I want to go be a Green Beret."
That's so
and
cool.
then I left and went through extensive training, like a couple of years worth.
Wow.
I was an 18 Delta. So when I got into Special Forces, you got to pick a job. I get it right, and the hardest job in Special Forces is the medic, right? On the team, there's usually medic, commo, demo, and light weapons, heavy weapons, those type of jobs. And I said, so I picked medic, right? Not knowing it would be 2 years worth of straight training just to get to there, and the attrition rate was incredibly high. So, was it hard? Yeah, it was super hard, and it's a lot different than what most people think. right?
Yeah.
So I go through all that training, and then I go to 5th group, and but we can talk about that. But yeah, I get into 5th group on ODA 523, and I still keep in contact with all my friends. I did that for a long time.
Yeah.
And I really get out of Special Forces because I stayed a long time in the reserves and the National Guard, right?
Okay.
Because we have special unit here, a Special Forces unit here in Massachusetts, the 20th Special Forces Group, and we have one in Rhode Island. So even during my weekends, I would go and jump out of planes. Jake, I'd bring him as a kid.
remember.
As to watch us jump out of planes and do all.
Yeah.
So he grew up on all the bases.
That's awesome.
He's actually an Army brat because I had him with Army insurance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
call it.
absolutely.
Makes
Absolutely.
sense.
So how did you, what would you say like through your training? Cause like for, again, Green Berets, like the upper tier, you got to go through, like you said, extensive training. What was probably like the most difficult part? And then probably, I would say through that training, what was something that like surprised you that you like seemed to kind of grasp like pretty quickly?
All right. Like at that point, I was super young to be going through it. It was called back then it was the SF Baby program. You could enlist directly for Special Forces. Back then, you really can't do it anymore.
Right. My buddy just went through like infantry and he did, 10 plus years in
exactly.
the Army. And
Then you have to apply.
I was telling that.
So what do you have to be there for 4 years first?
No, you have to be there for you got to have your time in 1, 2. You got to be up in the ranks a little bit. 3. Then you have to start like your peers have to speak
you have
for
to be an
like,
E5, a sergeant
Yes.
now to try out. But they have sometimes an 18 X-ray program. And if anybody's out there and they're watching this and they say, hey, maybe I want to do any type of special operations like Bo, one of Jake's friends, I'll point them in that direction and I'll say it's a long street to go down, but it's worth it because it will change your life, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
when I got to the teams in the early 80s, and I stayed there, off and on until 2006.
Wow.
Yeah, so you just figure that's my whole life has been, on the weekends or deploying for missions or, hey, coming home and telling the kids, I'll be back in 6 months. I'm going to Central America. I'm going here. I'm going there. Where are you going? Can't tell you, that type of deal.
Right.
But that was, my whole life. But in between all of that, right, I lived very interesting things too. Which I know you're going to talk about, and but yeah, it was a great adventure, and I advocate for a lot of young guys that want to challenge themselves to go do something like that.
So what would you say the main difference is between, let's say, a Green Beret versus like a Navy SEAL?
I knew you were going to ask that question. Everybody asks that question. They're excellent at what they do. They do a lot of amphibious operations. They do a lot of boat boardings. They're great at what they do.
Direct action.
Action. They're really good. What my job in Special Forces, most Green Berets, they don't understand our job is to train, assist, and advise on conventional warfare, right? What's that mean? Well, that means that my job is to go to countries and train them on how to force multiply and how to fight. We have to train the Army, their Army, how to fight and become real proficient at what they do.
Yeah.
The SEALs, we can do direct action because when we go out with our indigenous forces, we have to. The SEALs are very good at what they do. And, and there's always that brotherly type of conflict. Who's better? There's no one better. It's like they're all great at what they do.
Yeah, of course.
I have a lot of admiration for anybody that does the military or any of that. I don't care what listen to me.
Right,
I don't
we
care.
can't jump up in the jet and get like, with the Air Force,
Not everyone's going to be a fighter pilot. Not everyone's going to be
a medic.
A medic, right. They're not going to be that. So, but it's the whole machine that makes it work. And all these different branches have their jobs. And let me tell you, I've met some really great SEALs. I met some really shitty SEALs. I met some really great Green Berets. And I met some really shitty ones. But they just get peered out of the teams. Like you won't spend time in the teams because there's no joke. You're gone.
Yeah.
So, but
they
it's
don't fuck around.
No, it's a very serious world.
Yeah.
If it's one feather out of place, like you're gone.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Right.
If you even gain too much weight on those teams now, they'll just kick you out if you're too big. They'll be like, you
got so
most
much-
of the SEALs are like tiny now, aren't they?
yeah, they're all shredded.
They're like
up.
tiny.
Yeah, most people think like you see Hollywood's version of special operations, like these big
John Cena.
Yeah,
Yeah,
John-
yeah,
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 nothing
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Literally, the
Nothing
Marine.
like
Yeah.
that. Most of the
They're
guys,
like
average
my
height,
size, but yoked.
average
like
height, 5'6", 5'7".
Yeah.
I'm 6'1", but I was really tall for the teams.
Yeah.
And the guys that were like in the average height, 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", they could run all day long because, again, I found it difficult because I was bigger than most people.
Yeah.
But I say to anybody, nothing's impossible, and don't look at the Hollywood stuff because, look, dude, I even look at the Hollywood stuff and I'm impressed, and I'm like, that's not how it really happens. That's not real.
They're like, there's not many 6'4", 280-pound men walking around with
John Cena. It's like,
legit,
please,
just
Rambo,
one guy
just
taking on fucking a whole militia.
Yeah, we could have 2 5'7" guys. That means 2 guns.
That's
Instead
it.
of having one John Cena.
That's it.
Sneaky. They could be sneaky.
That's funny.
So then, how is the lifestyle change from going, from such a detailed and, high trained job that you have? How did you kind of wove in like the next chapter of your life?
All right. So when I get out of Special Forces, right, I met Jake's mom, Elle, and then I was like, I wanted to have like a relationship, and I wanted to have like maybe a family someday, right? Like everybody does. So what I end up working, and I was in Boston one day, and I was walking through Boston, and a guy walks up to me and gives me a card. And I'm looking for jobs, because I'm out of the military, out of 5th group now. Okay. I'm looking for a job, and a guy walks up to me out of the clear blue and hands me a card. And he goes, hey, you looking? So what are you doing? I was, well, I'm looking for work. And he's like, I got a great job for you. He gives me a card. I show up at this suite, and there's a ton of people in the suite, good-looking guys, and I'm like, ooh, what is this?
It's kind of weird.
What room did I just walk
is this
into?
a porno movie? That's the first thing. It's a casting couch. It's a casting call for like porno or some stuff.
Oh,
it's a big suite in Boston, and I was like, and then I come to find out, he's like, I said, what is this? He said, hey, we're doing an all-male musical review, and I'm thinking, what is that? And he said, male stripping. And I said,
oh my
what?
God.
And at that point, I was young, I was in shape.
Yeah.
I was like, well, how much does it pay?
Yeah.
Like, what do I got to do?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, we're gonna teach you. You can be a host, you can be a lead dancer, you can be a waiter, but it's a musical show. And this is in the mid '80s, and it said it's going to be at this place called the Palace. And which is up in used to be up in
on the 99.
Yeah,
in Malden.
Yeah. The huge place up on Route 1 in Saugus.
Oh my God! Yeah.
So I ended up saying, I'll do it. How much does it pay? And I didn't realize, but it paid a lot.
Yeah.
And especially being a waiter, you throw in the cuffs and collars. So I ended up getting hired by Men in Motion. And then I get into the whole world of male dancing, and I was still in Special Forces at the time,
which is crazy. Both.
Yeah, because all the guys
the
guys in my reserve unit knew that I was doing it, so they ended up like, what?
Were they giving you shit?
Oh, they'd laugh. They thought it was incredible.
Well, it's like the biggest A to Z thing.
Dude, it's crazy. Yeah,
American Badass, also like shaking that ass.
Yeah.
It's like a funny way to look at it, say it, but
isn't that funny?
It's like like you were saying, you got friends' wives showing you calendar shots, and but at the same time you're strapping up with them and you're getting ready to do whatever you got to do.
And then going on a mission. I'm like, we got to jump this week. We're going to be doing this, and we have 2-week deployment here. We got 6 months here, and I'm like, okay. And then so I did that for a couple of years, and the strangest thing for me while doing that was I would actually be on stage, and then I would on a Friday night, I'm like, Richard, who was the producer of the show, I said, I can't make it. I've got to go away to my reserve duty. And he found that hilarious.
Yeah.
That I was in the military, right? And I had longer hair, but I would slick it back. I would gel it and stuff. And then, so no one knew. Like even at the unit, no one knew. And then I would deploy. Let's say one time I left for 6 months, and I was down in Central America and during the mid '80s as an advisor. And then the very next night, after I flew back to Boston, I'm on stage again.
Oh my God!
Isn't that
that's great? It's
still think it's crazy. I still see pictures and go, "Wow, that's crazy."
That is crazy.
Wow, that's crazy.
Like, what was the? Did you have a shtick? Two-part question. Did you have a shtick? Like,
I was the unknown flasher.
The unknown flasher.
Yeah. So when they revealed that they take the one of the things I did was at the end when they take your bag off your head, your bag and your coat, and you go around the room and then they take it off and all the girls go whoa, and then then you go through your dance routine and then you go through your money routine and then it was crazy. It was just a crazy time in my life.
Wow,
this is during
flasher.
Yeah,
you sound like
so you're in a raincoat. You're in a raincoat.
Yeah, in a raincoat and a bag over my head.
So
tell me that's not insane. And then I would go and do that. And I would actually, I laugh about that now. I'm like, wow, I see pictures and I'm like, that's insane.
That is insane.
Well, you said you had
and then
like
you're jumping out of
I'll give you the pictures
You
so
have
you can
to.
post them.
Yeah, you have
okay.
to.
Yeah, it was great. It's just like a really great way that you said that you looked at life, like how to live it, like, unconventional, and like, take these opportunities and like life's like all about like adventure and like. You had like literally the complete bullet point of that. If you were to look it up on Google, it seems like you go all the way from doing what you wanted to do, like how you started off into special forces, and then
you live your dream. Live your dream.
Exactly. Right. You're walking down the street just looking for some work, and then you get handed a card, and then you're going through your money routine. And
I've done commercials. I've done commercials with really big news people. You see on nightly news. I've been on The View. I've done all this crazy stuff in my life, and people like it sounds like you're making it up.
Yeah.
Like that Forrest Gump.
I was going to say, it sounds like Forrest Gump.
Yeah. People would say.
Joe Dirt interview right now.
Yeah, like Joe Dirt. It's a Joe Dirt interview. I saw that movie. What's that movie with Chatham?
Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
Magic Mike?
Magic Mike.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm like, dude, that ain't shit. Shit.
Magic Mike ain't got nothing on Magic
No, it's
Ball.
nothing what I remember. Traveling around, going from the shows with the guys was insane.
Yeah, I'm sure.
What was
I'm sure it was like a rock star, like a rock. It's gotta be like a rock star
you go there,
mentality.
girls would know who you was. Anywhere you went in Boston, girls knew the show. They'd been there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anywhere you went across like New England, they knew it. Connecticut,
Wow.
they knew the show. They saw you in the show.
Probably, yeah.
And I'd have girls walking up. I'd be on dates and girls would walk up. Hey, can I kiss him? Can I get my picture? Pretty much what you guys go through now with the social media.
No, not even close to that.
Yeah,
You're a rock star. Jake's like, no, dude, like you, way better.
Legitimately, no one has asked to kiss you.
That's actually really funny.
What are
too
some
funny.
funny like stripper stories you have, Dad? Like some crazy.
There's got to be some crazy.
I like the one you told me where you got pulled over in your G-string.
Oh yeah, this is a good one. That's a good one.
This was funny.
Okay. Listen, I did this stripogram, right? Because I gave stripograms
Yeah,
after
yeah.
the show. They'd be hired to do stripograms. I'm like, oh, and some of the guys are like, oh, you make really good money. So we'd do the show, and then 10 o'clock at night would be at some bachelorette party doing a stripogram, and then going back home. So it was really like this roll through type of this thing. But I'll tell you a good story. I'm at this really expensive house, right? And I go upstairs, so I walk into the room, and there's a bunch of dudes there, and I look, and I'm like, oh, good God, I don't do, like, men dancing.
Yeah,
Like, it's not what I do. I mean, anybody out there, I have no problem with it. We had guys that did, just wasn't my thing. And so I walk in, they go, oh, the party's upstairs. And I walk upstairs, and it's this huge mansion. And I walk up, and there's this big, huge, like room upstairs. So it was like a function room, literally that big.
Wow.
And all the women were in there having a party, drinking, having a good time. So I was the entertainment. I show up, hey, where can I plug my radio in? Blah, blah, blah. And I had on, I think it was kind of like chaps and
What's your song? What was your song? Did you have a go-to song?
we had a whole bunch of them.
Okay.
Like Born to Be Wild.
Yeah.
Born
to be wild.
So
Which is literally like a perfect song.
Yeah, it would
for
start
you,
off
dude.
on that, and then we would go into like God, I can't remember some of the songs, but we would go
Like
into
Pour Some Sugar on Me, stuff like
yes,
that.
well, all the popular songs in
Yeah.
the '80s, but it was the high energy songs like God. Let me think of it. So, anyways, what happened? I go upstairs and I put the radio on, on the boom boxes, put it on the corner, and then what happens is. They start doing their thing, and the women are all getting wild. They start taking their clothes off, and I'm like, and the guys are downstairs, and I'm like,
Oh, this is bad.
The guys didn't give me the warmest greeting when I first walked in.
Yeah, they were like, "Fuck, here's the guy." And
So
then, so wait, you by yourself?
I'm by
or
myself.
Okay,
I'm in,
okay.
and I think at the time I drove a convertible '72 white Mustang convertible parked outside.
5.0?
Yeah, it was a 357 Cleveland or something.
351.
351.
The unknown flasher's a rock star.
So listen. So I go upstairs and I'm in there dancing. But so a girl breaks out a handcuff. She puts a handcuff on. They want to handcuff me, and I'm like, okay. So they handcuff me, and now they start taking their clothes off, and I'm like, oh. And the guys are now knocking at the door, and I'm handcuffed onto a chair with them doing that, and I was like, this got to stop.
This is not going to end
I
up
ended up
good.
snapping. It wasn't police handcuffs. It was like one of those love handcuffs.
Yeah.
Right.
So I ended up snapping the handcuff off, and I got the handcuffs on my wrist. I got a G-string on and a pair of chaps, and I have my hair done. I mean, think about it. So I ran over to the second floor balcony. I grabbed my stuff. I ran over the second floor balcony. It was number 2. Jumped out of the window.
Jesus Christ.
Got into my car, and I'm ripping down the street because these guys were pissed.
Yeah, they were trying to kill you.
Thank God you had those Green Beret skills. Like you use one skill for the other job.
That's what I'm talking about, dude.
Yeah. So what happened? I'm trying to get out of there because I think these guys are going to go. It's going to be a fight, and I'm not going to do well because their women are in there taking their clothes off during the act. Yeah. They're half naked. They wouldn't open the door. The guys think something crazy is going on.
Yeah, of course.
I jump out the window. I'm in the car. I'm riding down the highway. I'm speeding down the highway. I'm like, this is insane. I got handcuffs on. I have no shirt on. I got a G-string on, and I have a pair of chaps on.
Oh my God.
I get pulled over by the state police.
Oh my God.
And he walks up to the car. He just looks in. He says, "Is there a good story for this?" He was really cool.
Yeah,
he was really cool. I was like, listen, I'm a male dancer. I did this. This would happen. And the funny thing was being in special forces, a lot of the guys got out.
Yeah.
And they were in the state police. So I said, you can ask so-and-so who I am. And then he laughed and he's like, just, can you slow it down? And he said, put some clothes on because, you're driving around basically naked. That was a funny story.
That's so
doing something
funny.
like that.
So fucking
That's
crazy.
so
And you lost the
fucking
stereo. The stereo was still up
Yeah,
there.
it was gone. It was gone.
God.
They kept the soundtrack. They can keep everything.
Yeah.
It's back in the day too. It's things are a lot different. You didn't have guys with you. You didn't have people watching you on the other side.
It was a really new thing. Like
Right.
the Chippendales were big. Like Chippendales and Men in Motion were on the Phil Donahue show. So if you ever see the old Phil Donahue show, that were 3 or 4 of our guys that went and actually did the dancing with them. So we were the really 2 largest in the company of male dance troops.
Wow, it's awesome.
Yeah, and we did calendars, and I would have I would do calendar shots, and they still haunt me.
Yeah.
People are like, "Hey, dude, is this you?" I'm like, "No, it's my brother."
I got a twin brother.
It still just turns up. But that's absolutely wild.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And I tell you, another thing was Pia Zadora, right? You probably don't know who she is, but she was an actress back in the 80s, and she came up to the palace and with I had to go meet Jake's mom for a date. So I said, we're doing a photo shoot with Pia Zadora, and I said, geez, I got to go. She's like, where are you going? I said, I have a date with this girl. I really want to show up. I really want to be there. And she's like, oh, take my limo. I was like, oh, this is cool.
There you go.
Right?
All right.
So I ended up showing up to date. She's like, where'd you get this? I'm like, you wouldn't believe it.
If I told you, yeah.
You wouldn't believe me if I told you so. Just get it. We're all good. Jake, when you explain your dad to like your friends, even like growing up, not like even like now, say like even like a few years ago, like what is like the instant reaction you get back? Like, is it like, yeah, dude, stop, like, stop fucking lying. Dude, there's no fucking way.
Usually, like, a lot of my friends know my dad, but if it's somebody that doesn't know him, I feel like they're not like, oh, shut the fuck up, but they're like, oh, yeah, okay, like, blah, blah, blah. Like,
They're like, sure.
yeah, they just think you're blowing smoke or something, or like it's some big fish shit, but like, it's really true. Like, he really is dead serious, which is hilarious.
Yeah,
and just growing up, just going back and forth, like then as like you start to like obviously figure out like when did it all like click for you that like, oh wait, my dad does stuff that's like,
I think on one of his birthdays, I gave you an AK-47.
It was like my 7th birthday or something.
Seventh birthday, teaching him how to field strip AK-47.
That's so
That's
fucking
actually
awesome.
Think about that.
I told my teacher at school that I could do it, and they thought I was like a school shooter.
I got a good story. This is a funny story about Jake, right? This is a great story.
Awesome.
So listen, I have this like from the Middle East. I have this like, you ever see the white long white robe?
Yes.
Okay.
This
is funny. So what happens is Jake goes to school because I'd get out of the shower, I'd throw on that robe, right? Because I'd walk around the house in this long white robe. It was comfortable.
Yeah.
And so Jake goes to school and he tells his teacher, my dad wears a dress around the house.
I was like, I forget how it happened. I think like someone was saying something about
She
a
called me
bathrobe
about
or
that.
something.
You said
funny.
my dad wears
I was
dresses.
like, my dad wears like an Arabic dress.
No, you said my dad wears a dress around the house because his teacher called me and she goes, you know what Jake just said? And I was like, what? I goes, this is hilarious. I goes, it's an Arabic.
They all
robe.
thought you were a cross-dresser.
Yeah, that's
so
I don't know what they
funny.
thought, but it was like.
Cross-dressing.
And then the teacher recognizes you as being the male stripper.
I think it's funny. A lot of them did, like his preschool people, because I was already out of the business.
Oh my God, I didn't
by
even
then.
think about that.
Yeah, I was
You're
already
right,
out of the business when I would go places and people would say, hey, I remember you. You're a dancer, right? And I'd be like, that's not what I want to be known for.
Yeah.
But it was actually a really good because I made good money. We ended up
Yeah.
buying our first house with the money from dancing. And
Wow.
I bought a lot of houses after that.
I
Yeah,
always
you can't
thought-
complain about that.
No,
I can't complain about
I think
that.
I actually said this even before even having you on. I just had like this crazy thought as if being a male stripper at one point, right? Like if you ever go like, cause they go to like private parties, like you said, like showing up, like all I could think about with my luck is I show up to do like one of my first things and it's like all my girlfriends' friends' moms.
Yeah,
And, like, they
that's
recognize-
happened.
That's happened?
My grandmother showed up at the show one night. We had
Oh,
my
my-
grandmother
oh
came
my
to the show. And I was like, with all her girlfriends from the old age home. And I was
Not
like,
knowing that you were going to
That's
be
my
there.
Blobby. Bobby, look at him shaking that thing, Bobby.
and once we
now
had,
the unknown flasher.
once, because I get to know them when I was doing the hosting of the show, not doing the dancing, I was doing the hosting. I had the spandex on with the collars and cuffs. And I was out one time talking to this table of women, and I'm like, and the girl, they're having a couple of drinks, and I'm like, oh, okay, awesome. This is a true story. And she said, I said, what do you guys do? And I'm like, oh, I can't tell you. Then a little more into it, I'm curious because you want to know. Like,
Yeah.
They don't look like normal party people. None
Yeah.
of them are married.
Yeah.
I said, none of you are married because I saw no rings and everything, and they're drinking, they're having a good time. So halfway into the night, they're in the bag now.
Yeah.
And I'm asking, I said, so what do you do? And she looks at me, she goes, don't tell anyone. Of course not.
Yeah.
There were nuns.
No.
Swear to God.
Shut the fuck
And that
up.
blew my mind. They were nuns at one of the local, where they all are locally,
Yeah.
that snuck out to see the show.
They're like,
isn't that crazy?
They're like, what do you
my
do? They're
God,
like,
man.
none of your business.
They're in civilian clothes at the moment. Like,
It's crazy
that's
that they were
also
like
fucking
legitimately.
awesome.
You want to talk about like undercover, trying to not look like we'll get into like just trying to look like everybody else. Like
Yeah.
they were like cold stone. Like they
Cold
they
stone.
weren't giving you anything until they start drinking.
The 80s
On
were
top-
crazy. The
yeah.
80s were people say, what was
Yeah.
the 80s like? And
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, it was crazy. The 80s was really an insane time.
Yeah, I remember when
Everything
we
was new.
When we were talking beforehand, you were like, and this is all going on during the 80s. So immediately it's just like fireworks and confetti and crazy music in my head. Like that was the time if you were going to do everything that you were saying that, you went through in life, that's the time frame to do
I'm
it.
working, like I write. I have books out, we'll talk about that.
Of
But
course.
I write, and people said, hey, do you ever think about writing about what happened, what it was like in the 80s as a male dancer? And I said, you know what? I've actually started on something because on my off time, when I get the urge, I'll start writing more down stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a book that I'm working on called Life Behind the G-String, the untold story of male dancing in the 80s.
so good.
And telling the stories, like, I mean, I can't tell them on here.
Right.
But some of the stories people look at and they said, is that true? And I said, dude, I wish I could make this stuff up.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
was a wild
That's
time.
awesome.
I'm shocked that you don't have so that someone hasn't made a movie about your life yet.
Well, I know a lot of people, and then they know fragments of it from what I'm doing in
Yeah.
the business. And
Yeah.
then they say, hey, you're from Boston, you're from Charlestown. Like, hey, what's it like being from the town? And I'm like, we grew up there, so it wasn't really.
You almost get desensitized to it.
You
Yeah.
really, even the violence, you get
Yeah.
desensitized. Like fighting, it's like, oh, it's just a family matter.
That's
Yeah.
it.
It's like, oh, you're gonna have a fist fight. Oh, no big deal.
and then
They'll-
everybody's
they'll be
fine.
all right.
Everybody's
you shake
good
hands
5
after.
seconds later.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
shake
yeah,
hands
good.
after, and you do it as gentlemen. And you're like, oh, okay, well, hey, sorry for beating you up, and then
Yeah.
it goes on. And
That's
Right. So it's like
you
there's
want to
only-
go grab lunch?
yeah, that's how it is. It's mostly- it's
there's only
family.
so many chapters you can write on that until like, someone like all of us is just like, you see one thing, we see a different thing. So it's like, it is what it is.
But isn't life about a series of adventures? And it's not about putting everything else aside, but I think memories are more important, right? Really good memories are more important than what you accumulate, because I know a lot of people that have done the same job for 30 years. They retire. They just haven't lived any. They haven't seen the adventures, or they look at something on TV and they say, "I wish I could have done that."
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with me, that's how. When I saw something that I wanted to do, I actually looked at male dancing. I remember when I was in the military, in the day room, we put it on one time, and there were guys dancing. I'm like, "Oh, dude, I'd love to have that job." And then bang, like what
Yeah.
you guys do. You couldn't get on the radio years ago, but now you can get right on and have the same power that other people have,
Yeah.
just
If
by
not
having
more.
interesting shows and
If
bringing
not
on
more.
interesting people.
Yeah.
If not more. a reach across the world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
Right?
is
which is
incredible.
crazy without getting, like you said, an approval or like a cosign or having to be hired by a radio
And a
station.
big thing is
to have,
censorship,
to have
too.
like a mic to talk
Censorship.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think there's this big thing right now to do down TikTok, right? They're trying to do down.
They were trying.
They're
Yeah,
trying.
Congress was trying to take
Yeah, and
it
I said,
down.
you know what? That's such crap.
Yeah.
Because I think number one, freedom of speech. I think number two, I love watching them. It makes me laugh. I have nothing to do. I flip them on. I have a huge laugh. I get it. It's great entertainment.
Yeah.
But I think what's happening is it's taken away from the movie industry. It's taken because now there's celebrities at every level, and just to watch their life, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah.
Right,
So many.
I'd
absolutely.
rather watch their lives than watch a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. So many
No,
people,
definitely.
so many people are involved in everybody else's life. Everybody loves to know. It's like, if something's going bad or if their life seems so plateau and blah, you can always turn into the app and turn into the 10 people that you follow on your For You page that either give you a laugh or they on another journey in the Amazon today or what are
Yeah,
they doing?
yeah.
So it's like,
Well, if you're
What
watching
conspiracy did I not know?
if you're
about
gonna
today?
yeah, right.
if you're watching a movie and your favorite actor is on screen, maybe you get an hour of screen time with that person, and if they don't do another movie for 2 years, where it's like if I'm following Jake, I can see what Jake posts every day.
Yeah.
So
Right,
if I'm
and
really interested in Jake's character,
And it's motivational, right? We
Yeah,
see
for
things
sure.
that motivate. Like I see things that motivate me. I learn a lot about health. I learn a lot about life.
You lost 70 pounds.
Really?
yeah.
Congratulations.
Congrats. The pictures.
That's awesome.
But before and after, what happened was, I had a back injury and a parachute jump. I started, I was like, just relaxing, and I started. Then I went and saw a doctor, and he's like, dude, you got to take care of yourself. So I mentally clicked back in.
Yep.
And started,
Yeah.
I don't run, work out. I eat super healthy, and
Right.
for my age. I think it's I stopped all sugars. I stopped, sugar is the danger.
Sugar's
number
the big
killer.
one.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
I could talk to you guys for hours on sugar.
Sugar's a
Gary
big one.
Brecka, you listen to him?
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
So I listen to all the things about sugar and how it ruins your life, and it's true. And I'm at like 82 pounds actually, and because I'm a big guy, but I was always into weightlifting and stuff.
Right.
Now it all came off as far as the excess stuff, and I feel a lot healthier.
Yeah, that's great. I think I was close to 350 at my biggest. I completely cut out sugar.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How do you
Completely
feel
cut-
great now?
I eat sugar now. Well, I was younger. I was like 16, 17
massive.
at my biggest.
That's good, though.
massive.
But
They
you
were-
Wow, you
they-
were obese when you were a kid.
they
I was
were-
a fat piece of shit.
They
yeah.
were
I did
both.
not
Just
know
think, they were.
They used to call us the
both.
2 tons
2
of fun.
tons of fun was
2
my
tons of
grandmother's
fun.
nickname for us.
These guys were.
Yeah, but look at you now.
Yeah.
Like you guys are having fun and
We're
you're doing
having
it.
a blast.
Yeah.
We're having a blast.
He won't even say he slimmed down too.
I was a fat little kid. I was
Yeah.
huge.
You got to stop at some point.
My
you know?
mom fed me Twinkies and anything to shut me up, so that's where I got my junkiness
This kid
from.
honestly has the worst eating
I
habits.
do.
Do
I
you
could
really?
really take a page. I need a page out of your book.
He would-
I need a chapter,
When
maybe
you say
two.
sugar, it's disgusting.
It catches up to you, and the thing is, when you're young,
Oh,
you can
that's good.
metabolize it, and everything's working. But eventually, one day, it will stop.
Well, it fucks with your mood too.
He
for
eats
sure.
100%.
frosting out of the cup.
yeah,
I've been there.
yeah.
I love doing that.
Yeah, no, I know what you. I know what
It'll
you mean,
catch up.
Bobby. I should. Yeah, right. So instead of me, one day getting caught up with it, I should try to kind of, dial it back. I guess.
Well,
I'm kinda-
everyone's going the opposite. Like we kind
Yeah.
of been slimming down, and you're going up.
Like, see, my thing, really quick, with you guys being young and being overweight, right now, now you're kind of snapping out of that.
Yeah.
But at my time is we have a lot of guys like special operations guys, law enforcement, firefighters that are kind of overweight. They're overweight in their job, and they know they're overweight.
Yeah.
I've had guys that said, "Hey, these guys were shot because they were too heavy to put on their vest." I've
Yeah.
actually heard that from people, and so my thing is I've gone into this big health kick for other special operations guys that have had injuries that need to learn how to metabolize and do that. And I have a doctor friend of mine. We'll be doing a podcast, and we'll be talking about cooking healthy food and living an active lifestyle for older guys, right?
Right,
Older
yeah,
action
yeah.
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's a great
Because in
idea.
our brain, we're still,
I-
dude, I can do that. I see more. I
Yeah.
can do that. No, I can't.
Yeah.
No, I can't.
I love that though. That idea is fantastic.
Yeah,
There's
it's great.
so many people out there that would love, I'm sure, to hear, your insight and
Even
your
if it's just a
experience.
regular, a 40, 50-year-old guy, it doesn't have to be like, you know what I mean?
right.
It could be just
But
anybody.
they want to live an
Yeah.
active lifestyle,
Yes.
right? What does
Right.
that mean? Hiking. It means getting back in this.
Stay moving.
Stay moving, right?
moving.
Yeah.
Flexibility and
When
movement.
a shark stops swimming, it dies.
right?
Yep.
Right.
So again, eating unhealthy, it's okay. You want to do it, you're younger, but you'll eventually not be younger.
But he has like the world record for the most tuna fish sandwiches. Like
Do you
while
really?
sitting.
No, but I wish I.
How
I
many
mean,
was it?
unless someone's
I think it was
beat
like
me,
8. It was
12.
8 sandwiches. Oh, it was 12 sandwiches.
12.
He sat there
12
and
tuna
ate
sandwiches.
12 tuna
He
fish
had to
sandwiches.
smoke like a gorilla finger of a blunt or something.
I
to
was
do this.
13.
He
No,
walked
there was
in and
no
just
way.
made
I was
12
like
sandwiches.
12. I was 12 at 13 years old, and I
I'm
sat
like, what do you
right
do with
next
that?
to you.
And he had
I
a
sat
chocolate milk with
I
it.
sat next to him, and like between me and him, the sandwiches sat this high, and he was like,
my God.
"What are you doing?" I used a whole loaf of bread. I've always been. They know I can eat sweets for days or anything for a large, but I gotta try and figure out. I gotta try and do it in moderation. I can't.
Right.
Intermittent fasting's a big one.
It's been so unhinged for me. I can't get on a like discipline is like so hard.
Yeah,
like,
you know,
it is.
I find that like your generation of because everything's so available to them, right? I grew up in the 60s, 70s. Like I was born in the early 60s.
Right, you didn't have DoorDash. That
Yeah,
I
we
could
had
do.
none of that.
No.
You wanted to have
You're like
something
coming out of the Great Depression.
Yeah,
So you're
exactly.
not getting
I mean,
much.
It's a long
You
time.
think of the 60s, you think everything was still gray, like color wasn't even
It's like Pleasantville.
No one hit it with the wand and
Yeah.
the color didn't shoot onto everything.
no color yet.
Yeah, it was really a different time of life, and then all of a sudden the fast foods kick in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And then
Oh, wow.
your generation was brought up on fast foods in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's eating. It's hey, I want it, I get it. It's cheap food.
quick,
and
I don't have to
That's
cook.
why most of the kids today are all overweight.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
McDonald's, when we were kids, knew what they were doing with like all the Happy Meal toys and shit. 'Cause I remember you wanted to collect them all. Like, You used to
Yeah.
bring me to McDonald's. That's why I loved eating McDonald's.
Oh, it's
Oh
like
my
anytime we
God.
left a baseball game, we would just be like, our parents, I'm not cooking dinner. Like,
Go to
I'm just going to go to
McDonald's.
McDonald's real
Yeah.
fast.
It's like
Absolutely.
so it's so crazy how like and then like you're saying like that was then going on while we were kids, and now it's even involved more with the services that are available on all the apps.
Yep.
That at 2:40 in the morning,
You can get food.
I can get food.
I
Like I
know.
can get somebody to go to a 7-Eleven, grab me a full family pack of Chips Ahoy, and by any chance just drop it at my doorstep, and I just have to go down and get it.
amazing.
It is.
right?
It's
It is
crazy.
amazing.
So health
but
and
I gotta-
nutrition is really it's going to be the next thing that people are going because again you watch them.
Yeah.
Hey, how can I become healthy?
Yeah.
And that's so I kind of got these life hacks from guys in special operations to because again you have to eat for energy, right?
Yeah.
You have to eat for energy. It's not like you're eating a Happy Meal, dude. I'm going out and rucking 25
Doing it to
miles.
sustain yourself.
Yeah, you got to
right?
sustain yourself.
fill the tank.
Got to fill the tank. How do I fill it? And these are things that I pass on to other action guys and men and women. Hey, we do it this way or they do it that way. It's interesting, but we explain medically how to do it. And we also explain how to cook it. I'm about simple.
Now, was there any like trials through this that you like, for a certain amount of time kind of like tried, eating or being active in a certain way and then felt like, like maybe this isn't like I fell off here.
Okay, that's a good question because I explained to Jake on the ride over because again, bodyguard dad, right? Hey. But I said, right? And he's like, oh, okay, because he knows. He has,
knife hand.
He has to, listen, you got to, real serious. And, but no, it's a lifestyle change. And you have to buy into the lifestyle. Like what you guys do with social media, right? It's a lifestyle. You're not changing yourself because of what the audience wants to see. You are who you are, right? And people tune in because they like it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like numbers are just numbers because you could, when people discover you, then like, oh, dude, check these guys out, right? That's what happens. Like, I like the way they ask questions, who they are. Look at other stuff that they do. It's fun. It's fun to watch,
is.
right?
It
of course.
is.
Yeah.
For
You
sure.
know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, and I was saying this last week, that's why people do listen. Because I usually go, I don't want to listen to this fucking show. And I'm like, they do because we're us. And we're not being comedians. We're not telling bits. We're just being our natural selves. And that's why people have been gravitating.
And we're from Boston. And we have a crazy accent because everywhere we go in the world, people said, "Hey, say something."
Oh,
I'm like,
everywhere.
What?
Yeah.
And no matter,
I don't even hear it,
I was
but I
once
know.
on talking to an A10 pilot, and I'm talking in a heavy Boston accent, and he goes, "Yeah." Get off the mic.
Yeah.
And I look at my intel guy. So what? He goes, dude, he doesn't understand.
Yeah.
As my call guy said, get off. He doesn't
It's so
understand.
funny. People
Go
really
on.
do, really do love it.
We need fucking air support. The guy's like, what?
He's like, someone get Boston Bob.
Support.
Isn't that hilarious?
So can we get somebody to just speak a clear line of English?
You know?
Kansas Ken on the line.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
Jesus, that's wicked funny.
So you stopped being a dancer.
Yeah, I was
And
in
then
Special Forces. I was a dancer. I stopped that.
Okay, so now did you retire from Special Forces while you were still dancing?
I
or-
wasn't. I was in the reserves and National Guard. So,
Okay.
I was still kind of doing that back and forth. I'd have breaks in services every couple of years. I'd take a break, and raise the family, do things because the op tempo was kind of hard.
So at what point did you start getting into personal security?
Okay, so what happened was I went through a divorce, and then I'm at home and in Charlestown, and one of my friends calls me up, my friend Kenny, and I went through training with him in Special Forces. So he left and he ended up becoming an officer, right? He was an enlisted guy on the teams, and then he became an officer, and he was up at 10th group, and then he retired out of 10th group. And so he calls me up one day. He's like, "Hey dude, what are you doing?" And he knew I was from Boston. And again, I had a reputation because I was kind of a fighter, even when I was in there. I was a combatives instructor. I could fight. And again, that's coming from the city. And he said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing this?" So he gives me a name, and I says, "Yeah." He goes, "There's a plane ticket waiting for you. I want you to go out to LA, out to Brentwood, really expensive home. And I want you to interview with a guy. Are you interested in doing that? It pays good money, blah, blah, blah." I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do that." So then I fly out there, and a car picks me up at the airport, takes me back to his house, nice house, pull through the gates, got a horse track on the right side. It's just just
Massive.
Yeah, we're from Boston.
Compound.
Yeah.
It's like that's like Charlestown's 1 square mile. This was like to me as big as Charlestown.
Yeah.
So coming from the city, and it was Steven Seagal.
Okay.
Wow.
Which is
Yeah,
awesome.
which to me it was like I was a kid, not a kid, but when I was in the military, I'd watch his movie. We all loved him. He was a
Yeah,
great.
of
He's a
course.
great. Everyone,
Yeah,
no matter,
icon.
yeah, he's
Literally
an icon. And people always say, like, what was he like to work with? I said, dude, what you see on TV is him, number one. He's the real deal. And he's a great guy. Like, he legitimately would talk to anybody, like, because you were in the circle. My job was not to exploit him, and it was the easiest job you could ever do. Like I was telling you guys before we got on this, on the mic, my job was basically to keep people away from him. And people ask me, right? Ask, is he like that? Is he dangerous?
Yeah.
Can he really fight? Right? Ask me that question.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he can.
Yeah.
And he can really shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
He's a badass.
He truly is. And that
Yeah.
was his life. He's when people say, "Oh yeah," listen, you can say what you want,
Yeah.
but go do what he did. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? He was a martial arts instructor in Japan. He started training out in Hollywood. People saw something impressive in him. They put him into a movie. He smoked it.
Smoked
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and everything. And listen, if we see one of his movies, what do? We watch it as guys.
Every
Yeah.
time.
Love his
Yes.
I
One
love
of the
his
best
movies.
movies.
I love it's complete toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
I love
oh,
it.
yeah.
Right? And there's
Absolutely.
nothing wrong. And I
No.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Hollywood doesn't like that on him. But he sells his stuff all over the world, and he's
yeah.
not really.
I love when he breaks like 75 arms in one scene. He's just like,
That's like my favorite.
that's my best
Like,
shot.
he's got the
I was
world record.
recently in Turkey, and I have a friend over there, Tariq and Hassan at Hello Guys, and they were talking about him, and everyone they brought it up, everyone's like, "Oh, Steven Seagal."
They love him.
I was in Haiti at one point, and I had them. They call him Nico in Haiti. Nico.
Nico?
They don't call him Steven Seagal. They call him Nico. Everyone knows Nico. So think about it. Where can you go around the world, and everybody knows this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Everybody.
And especially as like a second name for him. Like that's why I was asking, like, how
one of
do
his
you like,
characters.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So I got
so,
hooked
like-
up by a buddy of mine that knew him. He knows a lot of the commanders in Special Forces, so they knew him, and he's like, "Hey, can you recommend a good guy?" And he recommended me, and yeah, he's from Boston, blah blah blah. So I went out there and I started working for him. I lived at the house, right? It was interesting as all hell.
Which
I
is
lived
wild.
wild. I mean, you're living with somebody and you know them on a personal level.
Yeah.
And he's always a gentleman, always a class act.
Which
He's a
is awesome.
workaholic.
And this was your first
Yeah,
job right on the gig,
first-
right?
first
That's
gig
good.
out
You didn't get
doing-
warmed up with
No.
some low-level actor.
Yeah,
nothing
no.
like-
Just Steven
just
Seagal,
You just
dude.
get thrown in with Steven Seagal. Like that's
That's so
insane.
fucking
Yeah,
cool.
and again,
Like you said, not a Will Smith,
Yeah.
not somebody that is well known or probably needs to get the paparazzi off. No, we're talking like icon. Like
yeah, and he was a great guy, and he never he's just one of those really good people. And people say, oh, you were his bodyguard. I'm like, dude, let's stop right there. You know what I was? I was a security detail, and really I would make sure that nobody would come into the house. Nobody would come in to hurt him personally. So I always had to outthink everything, right?
Yeah.
Making sure I had contacts and making sure that we had all the security done. So there's a lot more to being a bodyguard, so to speak. And that term for him doesn't apply because he can take care of himself.
Yeah.
But that's the danger, because a lot of people know famous people, right?
Yeah.
So what happens? They try to initiate lawsuits against them.
Oh, yeah.
So I would keep people away from him to initiate those lawsuits.
Yeah. Do you know how many people probably try to fight like Sylvester Stallone just for being Rocky?
All the time.
Want to fist fight him?
Yeah.
I'll tell you
so many
I'll
times.
tell you guys a really good story about that, about like how to outthink people. We were at I think the SHOT Show, and in Vegas. We were staying at the Mandarin, and there'd be so many people walking up to him taking pictures. It was just like he couldn't move, like legitimately. He can't even fly in commercial planes for that reason.
Yeah.
Just people want his autograph. They want to talk to him. Hey, I watch this. They don't want to talk.
That's
which I
gotta be a
understand.
lot, though.
It's a lot.
That's
It's
gotta be a
especially when you're
lot.
working. What I'm doing. So we're walking through this thing, and people are looking at him and looking away, and he's like, what's up? Like, and I didn't tell him. So what I was doing was, before I got any place, I'd say, listen, I'm bringing in a Steven Seagal lookalike.
There you go.
And they would thought like, oh, that's not him. And they would learn to look away.
Yeah.
But see, it made my job really
That's
easy.
great.
Right? So that was, again, outthinking.
It's a tactic. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a tactic. I was in a gas station one time, and I saw dudes looking at him, and I said, it's not him, it's a lookalike.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, okay, thanks.
It's a
and they,
stunt double.
Yeah, they immediately bought it, and it was, again, de-escalating the vibe. Because you know what? He legitimately couldn't go anywhere without people, even with his family, people walking up to the table.
Yeah.
It's a hard life.
It's
And I
annoying.
would always say to him, and I still, Steven, if you're watching or you're hearing this, you know how many times I say, heavy as the crown.
Yeah.
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 Right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Be careful about fame. I tell him, because your life, you don't
Changes
it's not-
like that.
It'll all change, right?
Then
And, like,
you
can't-
want it until you don't.
Exactly, and you can't be, in the middle of the day when you're doing your thing, going through an airport or going through a store. You can't be like, no, stop. Like, I just want this all to stop. It's not going to
No,
work
because
like that.
what ends up, you're right, and what ends up happening is that even at your hardest moments, you have people walking up to you trying to stop you from moving through that. So every 1 minute, he's stopping to address someone that wants to get into a long conversation.
Yeah.
My job would be break that, like, Steven, we have to move. So I'm the bad guy. I have to be the
have
bad
to.
You
guy.
have to be.
You
Yeah,
have to
everyone
be.
has to, like, hate,
And he's a great guy, because he would talk to everybody. And I said to him, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
He speaks fluent Japanese. He speaks fluent. He's just a brilliant.
great.
He's a
Maniac.
brilliant guy, like brilliant.
Yeah.
He seems like just like a calming person too.
You know what?
Yeah.
On the ranch, and I won't tell anybody where it is, but we would go out to the ranch. And on his ranch, he allows no animals to be killed.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
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 Not even snakes.
He wants
We
them-
had a rattlesnake by the car, and he's like, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Wait till it goes away.
It'll go away.
Right. Think about that. And he would pray for water and pray. And it's just, I don't know. People say, is that really true? I'm like, yeah. He's,
You pray for it to rain or something?
No, he'd pray to make sure that the animals, the water, he'd pray for the water. He'd pray because, again, he's Buddhist, right? And you'd hear a lot of Buddhist people. They do that stuff. I really didn't understand it because, again, where I'm from, from Boston, we throw cans at everything.
We don't really practice. we don't practice Buddhism
No,
in Boston.
if you're not moving 2 minutes, when we're in 1 second, we're in line in the car.
Yeah,
right?
screaming at you.
Yeah, so I did that. So it was a really good experience. He's a class act, and I like people asking about him in a positive way, not trying to edit it out.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And not make it so played
not-
out or chopped up that
Well,
it
people want
sounds
stuff
different.
to fit their narrative. That's
Yeah.
the problem. They want Steven Seagal to be this bad guy that they don't like him for some reason in the media. But
Yeah,
I,
he's
I
like
have
the
nothing but
walking
positive
Grinch. He doesn't
experience
want
from him.
anything like to do
I
with
mean, I
anyone.
literally
He just
grew
wants
up
to.
watching his movies, loving his
This
movies.
is a pro Steven Seagal podcast.
Yeah, and again,
Yeah.
I've seen the
100%.
negative. I've seen the negative ones, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, you know what? You're just looking for the numbers, and you just.
yeah,
course.
people are
and,
dickheads.
and this is the truth. I can tell you with complete certainty that I've seen lawsuits and things brought against him that I knew was 100% a total lie.
Yeah.
I knew it because I was there, and then that I ended up looking at it saying that's crap. Like
Yeah.
that didn't happen.
People just want the bag.
Well, they want them. They want. You know what? You
They
have
want
to.
the money.
You have to isolate yourselves, right? When you get to a certain point in life where it's sad,
Yeah.
but you can't have people coming into your life because they might bring that baggage
Well,
and
yeah.
stuff with it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that you had to do for like your job, like you said, like you always had to like outthink other people. And when, you know, mainly people might think is like, you know, again, calling you a bodyguard, but it's really, you know, personal security detail, that you don't like, you just don't want the conflict in any means. Like I thought that like the story that, you know, you took the guy in front of all of his buddies and turned them around without even a second, because you don't want to be the guy, like we said, in the black tracksuit, puffing out the chest, like come and get
bodyguard that just beat somebody up, right? You see stuff like that. That's dangerous for what we call the principal, the person that you're protecting. It's very dangerous. We can't do that.
Yeah.
So, but I see guys out, these meatheads that call themselves bodyguards. Like we do PSD. I do personal security detail. I do PSD.
Yeah.
I'm there to protect you and your family against everything, not just being a muscle flex. You know, I'm
absolutely
right. And that's not really what you want to be. You want to be the de-escalation.
Yeah.
And that's what I really live my life by.
Yeah. So now that basically led you into, you mentioned earlier that you are an author. So you doing that, now how long were you his personal security?
Off and on for years.
Years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and then I got exposed to a lot of really good things, like a lot of really good people. I met a lot of interesting people. Right.
Yeah.
I've actually brought friends of mine out to his house, and they said it was so strange. Would be pulling up to the to his house, and he'd be out there with the flashlight. And like, dude, that's Steven Seagal with the flashlight, because it's weird. He's like, oh, come on, Pac, over here. Hey, Bobby, come on, Pac. And they find that really weird.
Yeah.
But I've been with them so long that I have like. I've got a lot of pictures with them, but I don't even take the pictures. Like even what Jake was saying, like you don't do that to your friends.
Yeah,
because I don't feel like I'm exploiting my friend.
Yeah.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
It's like people want to get into your life, but they don't want to be invasive. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
But I like you guys' show. I think it's that's why I told Jake I'd like to, because guys from Boston, I think we should support that.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
I
the
really
biggest
do.
the biggest thing about being from Boston, and especially like I'm a musician too, so just being an artist, there's always this like clash of, oh, what I'm doing's better. Or you don't really get that support where, like when we linked up with Jake, it's like, you know, Jake, we actually, you know, like what you're putting out. He liked what we're putting out. Why are we not working together? It makes no sense not to do that.
Can I tell you a good way of thinking about this is like when you get into the competitive mindset, right? You should only be competing with yourself first of all. Not when it goes external, there's a problem.
Yeah.
So you should be complimenting the C, not compete, but you should compliment. My biggest thing was I always say to my friends, like, he's incredible. This one's incredible. If you can't say it positively, then you shouldn't be around those people. If you think you have to compete with them, then there's a problem, right?
Wow.
You should be competing with yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always.
How can we
Always
get
be
better?
Trying to push yourself.
What can we do to get better?
What can I do as what am I doing that's not communicating where I want to be?
Yeah.
Right? Because if you believe who you are and what you are, you can make it happen. Right?
Definitely.
Belief systems.
Absolutely.
You know, listen, I was 160 pounds, and I said to my dad, hey, I'm going to go be a Green Beret. And he laughed.
Yeah.
And he's like, and then I
Didn't
come
he say
back.
like something like McDonald's is hiring or something?
Yeah, he's like, he thought I was just talking, and I said, no. I said, Dad, I like signed up today. He's like, you're kidding me. So, and the thing was, when I come back, I went from being a skinny kid, and I'll give you the picture, you can post it. But I went from being this really skinny kid, and I was jacked when I was done with the training. And I was like, think about how crazy that is.
Yeah.
You go from being this like, oh,
You're a whole
and all of a
different
sudden
human.
I come back, I'm jacked, and I'm real serious character, and complete change in life.
Yeah.
Right. And then, but I learned one thing is never to be afraid of going after what you want. Like, for instance, if they would have said, hey, want to jump out of a plane at 2:00 in the morning over this country? Yeah, I'll do that. When you start to get into that life, there's nothing you can do here. Hey, you want to go live out in the jungle or go live out in the snowstorms? Yeah, I can do that. And you start pushing who you are as a person, then you become better at who you are.
Yeah.
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 That's
Right?
awesome.
Yeah. That's,
course.
That's unreal. That's a really, I mean, it really is like a
Does
really
it
good way
change
to
our
look at it.
outlook?
Yeah, I mean,
life?
yeah, it makes me want to drop sugar 100%, get ripped. I definitely, I'm ready to run through a wall. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
but you
ready
can
to
do
go.
it though.
You know what it is?
Like, you can do this. it's just it's a mindset. We were laughing. Jake had a really hilarious thing.
What, the David Goggins?
Yeah.
Because I was doing my David Goggins impression on the way here, and he was dying.
I was laughing.
He loves David Goggins.
People say, hey, you like Goggins? Some people don't like him. And I'm like, I like him. And I say, tell you what, he lives by what he believes. He's out there doing what he's out there. Push it. And he's right. Not everyone's going to be in special operations. And it takes a lot to get there. Like your friend that's going through, it's going to be a lot to get there, but you have to have that mindset of internal competing with yourself. Like, I wasn't quick enough.
Yeah, who's going to carry the boats?
I got to do it. Who's going to do the job? Carry the logs. I'm carrying the log. Yeah. I'll do it better than anybody. Yep. And that's how I've kind of lived my life a little bit, but I still haven't been, I'm still not where I want to be. And I don't think I'll ever get there. Yeah. Right? Because we all want this adventure. But I always said to my mom when I was a kid, I want to go to Hollywood. Little did I know I would go to Hollywood that way.
On that manner.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right? But
you
get what we want. But exactly what
and
you guys are doing, same thing, right? Same thing that he's doing. Yep. You know, people are like, oh, you do TikToks. You know, you're not making money. Yeah, but you're living your life. I know a lot of people that were making a lot of money and that got inoperable brain tumors or got this and got that, and they were gone in a year. Yeah. So do what this is a very limited time in your life. Do what you want to do now.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
You have to.
So then we were talking about something with even life after obviously, doing personal security detail. You then started, what came first? The invention, obviously? No, teaching law enforcement first?
Yeah, because again, being in special forces, working with Steven and now being exposed to all these police officers, right? Because you saw the show The Lawman, and people would say, hey, you'd swap stories back and forth. Hey, what do you do for this? What do you do for that? Right? Because everybody's about staying alive close, right? Yeah. And that's what I specialize in. My thing is I stay alive close. And so what I did was I started talking and training law enforcement. There were always a gig in special forces for our guys. Hey, I'm training these guys. You want to show up? I need 2 guys to do this, right? That's how it works. Yeah. So my thing is I'm known in the special forces community as being PSD guy. Like I'm, one of the guys that do the hands-on bodyguard stuff, not just with Steven, but with other people. Yeah. Wealthy people, less known people in the public eye, but very well known in the business world.
People that still need the service.
Yeah, they need the service, but they don't want their friends to know they have the service. So you're very quiet. You live in the shadows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because literally you live in the shadows.
Someone just thinks you're like a CFO of their company.
Yeah, they don't know who you are, but you're kind of like, you're assigned to them and you travel with them and people don't really know. They think you're an assistant. They don't really ask questions. But
that's pretty sick.
Yeah.
So kind of like a double life in a way.
Yeah, you do. And again, you're living that cover for action, cover for status, where people like, oh, who are you? And it's like, oh, I'm just the assistant. Or
so then you got into that type of work where you're training that person. Yeah, you're training those people to live like that blind life.
When I would have a principal, I would always make them aware of how we operate or how I operate, to know that if something should happen, what I expect them to do.
Okay.
Right? So it's not just going to be me trying to protect them. I make them part of the equation, right? So when I wrote that book, the book is called The Unconventional Close Protection Operator's Handbook. And when I wrote that book, it was really to explain to people the real life of being a close protection operator, right? And I hate the word bodyguard, but that type of thing. Yep. And some of the stories that go along with it, like some of the things you should learn. Listen, you don't have to be like an ex-CIA guy or a badass in one of the teams. You just have to learn a unique set of skills that makes you good at what you do. Yeah. And like, you know what it is? Again, the computers, right? You have emails, you have all the things, the cybersecurity, this home security, this. It's not been getting to just be a meathead with the gun. Now you've got to go out and make sure that the perimeters are set, the home's protected, the mail's being delivered, nobody's tracking you. And when you learn how to do that, you end up living your life like that.
Okay.
Wow.
So check out the book. I'm not pushing
and
it.
it's
absolutely.
You can find it on Amazon?
Amazon. I'm on Amazon. The Unconventional Close Protection Operator's Handbook, and I have another book coming out called Bodyguard Dad.
Bodyguard Dad.
Yeah.
I really think that your social media presence would take off with that.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people, like you said, whether it's your average Joe dad or it's someone that's kind of been in the same line as you and now they're a dad as well. And
I feel guilty too because I see someone doing something. I'm like, excuse me, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, what do you mean? Do not let your child stand up in a shopping cart. Did you know that 8,500? I go through because I know this stuff. Like even when he was a kid, I would
used to say, "Stay alert,
stay alive." Yeah, it's all my stay alert, stay alive. What do you do if there's an active shooter in your school? Get on one knee, assess the situation, move in the opposite direction of fire. That's because that's what I do, right? And right. And is it good? No.
A lot of people freak out and they run toward the shooter because they won't know. Like you're in a room and you don't see where it's coming from. You just see where everybody else is running. Some people run toward the shooter because they don't know. Where
or they run towards the crowd, and the crowd is getting whatever. But So again, that evolved me when I left doing that type of work. And people said, "Why'd you leave it?" And I said, "I couldn't be with my family. I couldn't be with my son, my daughter. I couldn't. I never saw them. I was always away traveling, and I was living someone else's life, right?" And there comes a point where it sounds exciting, but the reality is I'm living someone's life.
Yeah, ball and chain.
Yeah, ball and chain. And it was a great life. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it was a great experience, but not what I want to do forever.
It has an expiration
memories,
date.
like you said, that that you love to live on, right? That you always want to obviously remember.
I chuckle.
Yeah. So you've gotten plenty of those, I'm sure. So you've brought those all with you. So then you get into law enforcement. But now I didn't even know that. So you teach law enforcement all around, right? But then you also created what exactly?
All right, I'll tell you what happened. I'm home. I'm eating a pizza. I watch.
Can I go get one of the vectors out of the car just so you could show the shape and everything?
Well, I know what I'll do. I'll give you a picture. You can
and I'll overlay it. Yeah, and I'll so everyone can know what you created.
I'll tell you what happened. So what happened was I ended up taking. I saw a news report of a Boston police officer named John Moynihan being shot in the face, opening up his door. A guy shoots him in the face.
Jesus.
And it was horrible. And this guy's an ex-ranger. He was just got back. He was officer of the year. The guy's a stud. Like listen. The police are here to protect us. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care what kind of social bullshit people are saying about that. There's a lot of great men and women out there that if at 2:00 in the morning, if something's happening, you can pick up a phone and call them and they can come. But if you want to look for trouble and do illegal things, it's going to happen. Thank God, because if we didn't have people doing that job or being firefighters or being ambulance responders, when your mom's having a heart attack or the house is on fire, you need people to call. Well, those people are out there. Yeah. So I see a guy like John Moynihan, when I was a kid growing up, the police were always our heroes, right?
Yeah,
heroes,
of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And I see John get shot in the face. And then I was like, wow. And it really emotionally impacted me because I saw something in that shooting that maybe most people didn't pick up, but me being a special forces guy and me being close protection and me knowing about armor and ballistics and all that whole thing and about human reflex, I saw him do something and I immediately went on the computer and started looking other things up. Mm-hmm. And I started seeing the same thread in every single police shooting. I saw I saw the officer get their hand up in front of their face. So when I did that, I immediately said, I have to build something that can go between the officer and these people, right? So I went down and started building I think I cut it out of cardboard, right?
Yeah, from a pizza box.
From a pizza box. I cut it out of
pizza watching.
Yeah, so I cut it out of cardboard and I said, I'm going to build this. And then what happened?
I'm like, he's going fucking crazy.
So I built it. I built the first vector out of a pizza box. And then I went down to Georgia, bought steel, started making it, blah, blah, blah. And then I wrote a training manual with it. And then before you know it, I sell 1, we sell 2, we sell 10, we sell 20, we sell 50, we sell, it goes like that.
Yeah,
wow.
I call it you guys are too young, but I call it the Fabergé effect. It was a commercial when I was a kid.
Fabergé eggs?
No, it was a Fabergé. It's like, they tell someone and they tell someone and they tell. It was
it's
a funny
telephone.
commercial. Yeah, it's like it force multiplies.
Okay.
So I ended up doing this, building this, and then I started doing the training, and I started training police all across the country, federal, state, local. Mass State Police use it. We have DEA using it. We have U.S. Marshals. We have everybody from all across the country. We're in where?
Braintree.
They use our shields. So I'm all across the country, right? We
everywhere.
I make them for everywhere, and I have it built a company, and we're building up, and we have myself. Wendy Vogenberger. Wendy, I want to say hello. And she's holding down the fort today. She's actually doing all of the conference calls.
Oh, is
yeah,
she?
because she knows I'm here, so she's doing all the conference calls.
Shout out to Wendy.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have a whole bunch of really great trainers, and we travel the country, and I train law enforcement with this thing called the Vector Shield, which is the best shield. And what it does is it protects the center line of the body. It's designed, you can get shot in the arms and the legs, but you're not, the round is not going to go here. And it's designed to put up in front of your face and allows the officer to get to
It has like a coffin kind of shape to it. Like that's the way like it's
Well,
shaped, so it protects.
It's kind of like that shape, and it's got
it's like wider where your head would be, and then as it
So
goes
does it
down,
just fit on your
slides out.
forearm?
Yeah, it fits on your forearm, and
Okay.
it's arm deployed, but it protects and lets an officer. And I'll send you some of the tapes, and you can look at what we do. It's pretty interesting. But
It's come a long way though. Like the evolution of the shield,
Huge.
like from when he first started doing it. It's like watching the Iron Man movies. Like you see
That's
the
all
first suit.
that's all I'm imagining right now.
Yeah.
As a Marvel freak, I'm thinking about like Tony Stark in his lab as he just keeps like he starts with one thing, doesn't work. All right, let's try this.
Yeah.
Then,
Can I tell you-
then the
Even,
shape.
like,
and
that's
the
how we've done
the
it.
shape,
look.
every
it's
single
really
thing.
advanced, and
That's
it's
all
training.
what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah, it's really advanced, and we have we train them, and you talk about that. About Tony Stark, and I'm like the Elon Musk of ballistics, and what
I love that. I love that.
what happens, like if anybody, like I go through airports and they see Vector, I'm like, oh dude, are you the guy with the shield? I'm like, yeah. And like, oh, we love your shield. And I think that's my biggest compliment,
Yeah,
right?
that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Right?
That is so cool.
So if you
yeah.
can do anything in life, like you protect people and I still get to do it. So we travel around and we train people, and it's a great life. Like I like what I do.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That's the biggest thing in life is you have to like what you do.
Yeah, and you got to stay motivated.
Yeah.
And that the biggest problem is that self-motivation when no one else is around.
Yeah.
Like, oh, is this really working? Am I really doing it? Like, I'm sure that when the cameras aren't on and
We've had plenty of conversations.
right,
Like that.
should we keep going or shouldn't we keep going? Dude, even in business, what happened to me, I would go months with no sales, months, and then all of a sudden a big order would come in.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, thank God. Like,
Yeah, we needed that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We get a video to pop. Same thing.
Right.
You know, numbers skyrocket. You're like, oh shit, wait a minute, time out.
Do you know what the
okay,
best
people
thing to
do
do?
like this.
You know
Yeah.
what the best thing to do is just do it. And people are like, what do you mean? I always have this thing, and I tell people,
Shia LaBeouf that shit. Just do it.
yeah, I always say,
Fucking do it.
jump off the cliff, and build your wings on the way down.
Yeah.
Right, and that's
That's
a good.
what I like about Goggins. That you were saying his whole philosophy is be like uncomfortable, like
Yeah.
in what you're doing, because the more you're uncomfortable, like you're gonna try to like fucking
Do you
get
wanna-
better at what you do.
I'll tell you one
That's
thing.
what I
like,
do with betting.
Like I
Just
wasn't the
doesn't
best
work.
Green Beret. I truly wasn't. And people like, you really? And I'm like, yeah. I said I got recycled twice. And most of the guys cruise right through because you're with a group of real studs. It isn't like the football team, dude. These guys are all like
It's the all-star team.
This is these are
All-team,
extreme
yeah,
athletic people, extreme athletes
Yeah.
with high IQs
Yeah.
that are hand selected to do jobs at the national level all over the world.
Yeah.
I know.
So
Yeah.
you're with a group of studs that are geniuses, and they're not like these big monkey war fighters.
Yeah.
They can do that, but really they'll outthink the enemy before. Hey, they're doing this. Okay, let's throw it in the think tank. What are we going to do? And we'll outthink something and make that happen. And if you apply that knowledge to business, like even doing your podcast, like what makes us great? Hey, we're from Boston. Is that great? Well, we think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we know. So we're going to laugh about what we know.
Yeah,
And
of course.
everybody loves a comic from Boston.
Yep.
Yeah.
Steve Sweeney, Lenny Clark, all those guys. Like we look and they go, they've been around a long time, but we'll go and see them 100 times because we love our
Oh yeah,
comedians.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Yeah, of course.
And so that's really what I've been doing for the longest time. And but I appreciate the questions.
Yeah, no, it's been great getting to know you. Absolutely.
I think we all have 500 pages of reading to do.
yeah.
I cannot wait for this bodyguard dad thing too.
Oh,
As
yeah.
a father, he's becoming a father. I'd love
Yeah.
to know some tips and tricks.
Do you know, like I get turned on to TikTok because of my son Jake, right? And I see him doing it. And I'm like, oh, like it's like, oh, he's doing. What's your son do? He does TikTok. Really? I'm like, yeah. He's it's funny, but now I could step into it. And I said, hey, I'm going to do Bodyguard Dad. and then do it, try the TikTok, but I'm not doing it because, hey, I want to be a TikTok. I truly mean I want to be able to
spread a message fast.
Yeah, save lives. Because I open the paper up, like with John Moynihan, right? I open the paper up and I see like a young kid falling out of he's in critical care because they fell out of a shopping cart. They shouldn't have been standing up, but I see it so much. Or these electric cars. How do I move a person through a parking lot when you can't even hear the cars coming anymore? They're electric cars.
Yeah.
There's so many different, or they see young kids attacked by dogs. Hey, what do I do if I'm attacked by a dog? What do I do if I fall into a pool and I can't swim? What alarms do I need? So as a dad, right?
Yeah.
Remember, Jake, we had alarm systems in the house. We had all this stuff that I believe in, because my job and your job, right, as fathers and having children is to protect. 100%. But how do I do it? Because, well, you can do it this easy. I've known people that have had, dogs lost and they can't find them. And I said, simple as buying a collar that has a tracker on your phone.
A microchip.
You have air tags. And
you can do all that stuff.
Yeah,
but people don't know about it, right?
Yeah.
And how do I move to an airport quicker and faster? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I get to talk to people and I tell them, and then they know my background and they kind of like, really? And I've had them say, well, you don't look the type. And I take that as a great compliment.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to look the type.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that Hollywood version.
That's the whole point. Yeah, right? Remember, just not look the type at all. Just look like I'm just,
And it's always that person you never know that's going to, I think that's the background of most of even Seagal's movies. Mm-hmm. It's the guy that no one ever knew who did everything, and then he's just trying to water his plants, and you pull up all his flowers, and things are a problem.
Now you got a problem. Oh, that's great.
I think that would be a great. I think it would be a great idea. I could see him stitching every video. Like the video, stitch incoming, and then it just
so you're gonna help
Bobby.
him?
I already told him. I'm
Good.
already there.
You should.
You have like a big leg up with him on your team.
You know that Detroit Urban Survival guy? You ever seen him? Detroit Urban Survival.
Is it the black guy?
The black dude? Yeah.
He reached out to him. He wanted him to do some stuff. He didn't do it, but he was
that would have been good, though.
Is he full of shit?
You know what? I think he has his presence on. He has his presence, and again, see, that's our Boston in us. Like, hey, what are they about? Are they full of shit? And I'm like, you know what?
I don't know.
No,
first question.
Yeah, but it's our Boston. That's fuck you. That's our Boston stuff, right? Everything we look at, you're full of shit, and then we got to prove ourselves from the I'm full of shit phase.
But we'll be the first ones to be like, all right, I guess you weren't full of shit.
Right.
We'll be the first ones to be like,
because you know what? You get in Boston, you got a group of guys sitting around a bar saying, that's full of shit. Yeah. Right? Well, we all do that. But everybody has their presence. And then, listen, people always ask me, hey, what do you think about this company? And I'm like, there's a company called Bowler Wrap, right? And you guys don't know who it is, but what they do is they take like this device and they shoot it at criminals and it wraps around them. And
like a bolo.
Like a bolo.
Like a bolo. Okay, Bowler Wrap. Okay,
right?
yeah.
And people always say to me, what do you think about that company? Oh, it doesn't work. Other people say, oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I'm like, I love the company. And like, what do you mean? And he goes, dude, Gen 1 and Gen 20 are going to be so much different. Like you guys doing the show.
Yeah.
500 shows come out of something like this probably.
And save lives, right?
Yeah.
So let's not, I always say, let's not down that. Let's watch the evolution of what happens because, you got these kids like, oh, I want to do TikTok or I want to do something, but you don't know where that's going to take them. Yeah. You know why? Look at it. You got a kid.
It's luck too. TikTok's luck. Because people I've seen people that post every single day and they won't get like any notoriety for like years. Like I would post on TikTok when I first started, like once every like week, maybe 2 weeks. I was just not doing it. I was like an enigma, but I was getting lucky. Some of the videos that I would put out would pop and people thought they were funny.
How about a kid up in Canada playing guitar gets seen on YouTube? Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So let's not go on this whole thing like, oh, he's out there playing guitar, like, oh, look at that. No, because that's Gen 1 right there.
Yeah.
It's all about luck. It's all about who sees it at that moment.
But it's also about trying to living your dream
100%.
And believing that you can do whatever you can do and not listening to other people like, oh, I hate that video or whatever. But I'm not trying to, you know what I mean? I'm trying to explain that like in my youth, I was really the time that would jump in and not listen to anybody and just go for my adventure and then Other guys were like, oh, that's gay. You're doing that. You're doing that.
Right. No, 1,000%.
But I had 1,000 girlfriends. I had, I had women giving me numbers. I'm like, you know what? I'm all set.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
you don't even have to expend that energy, though, to even explain yourself on that note when you're just like, you know what? You're just living from the outside when you have,
Right.
you
But a
don't
big
even have the slightest idea about
A
it.
big percentage is ball breaking too.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That's
100%.
what Brian Haley, my friend, is an actor. You've seen him in a lot of movies. I talk to him all the time, and he said, "You know what? Because growing up in Charlestown on the street corners, we're all telling stories. Like we spin yarns. That's what we do around Boston. We all,
absolutely.
let me tell you a story." And everybody's like sits and listens.
Yeah.
And he said, "If I just got a camera on each one of you guys, it's gold.
Yeah.
It's gold.
Right? It's gold.
Yeah, it is.
Every single time.
And you know what?
War stories.
And you never know where someone's going to be next year.
Yeah.
They get picked up for a movie, they get picked up for something, and then all of a sudden, dude, they're huge. But they'll remember one thing, that you were nice to them and you complimented, not competed with them, that you were like, dude, he's good, they're good, they're good. Even if you have differences. Listen, I've done movies where I've had differences with people on the set. Jake knows, and I'd walk away from it. I'd be like, dude, I'm just not getting into the argument. And Seagal told me that. He's like, Bobby, don't get in the argument. Just walk away, make another one, do something else, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't done it. Another thing that you all don't know, but like I've always had a passion for watching movies and being involved in to some levels in what we do. And I've done them,
Yeah.
you know. And I would say go after your dream. If we all have a script, right? We all have a script in life, right? Everybody's got something that they do that's going to be found fascinating by somebody else, right? But Sting wouldn't be anybody without without the group.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Bono wouldn't be anybody without the group. It's you too.
Yeah.
Right? And Bono's good, but Bono's not you too. And if they go out on their own, they're never as good as they are with their team.
Yeah.
So
It's like the Beatles or John Lennon.
yeah, I listen to his music, but it's not the Beatles.
It's not the same.
Yeah, it's not the Beatles.
So even with what you guys doing, right? And I always said this, like Boston needs to get a troop of guys together, right? That help each other grow, and not just like, oh, frig you, I made it, leave them behind, right?
Yeah, you can't do that.
Right? They got to help each other grow in a positive way.
Yeah.
And then sky's the limit, because everyone likes Boston humor. Like I love.
They do.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it's the
It
best
just
humor.
seems that what we're missing though is the band of brothers.
Band of brothers.
You know, that's gonna kind of all come together, because it is a real kind of cutthroat, like, oh, your shit's not as good as my shit type thing.
You know
I
what?
mean,
It's-
it just
it's-
happens to where it goes to.
It's only cutthroat if you engage in the cutting. So here's the point. It's like, even if someone slashes me up the back right now, what I've learned in life, I look at them and I'm like, well, you know what? He's still a good person. And I've actually had people do that for whatever stupid reason. It could be jealousy. It could be whatever's happening. And then the other guy was like, dude, you know what he said about you? He said, you're a good person. And that's like more of a stab in the stomach for someone than it would be.
That's gut-wrenching.
Right? It's gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
So I've just learned not to engage in the battle and do my own thing. But if you mobilize this in Boston and you help these other people grow, like show their talent, show what they're about, some of them will always come back and say, hey, I want to take you with me.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to do it with me.
Yeah.
Trust me, that's how it works.
Like you said, the mindset of complimenting instead of, competing.
You never want to compete. Only compete against yourself.
Against yourself.
Like Jake, I always say his funniest moments is not when the camera's rolling. It's just when he comes sitting in the car, starts imitating Goggins, and I was laughing hysterical driving down the highway, and I'm like, wow, this is actually funny because I know those type of special ops guys. Jake, you can't do it.
It's like, I woke up this morning and I thought I was gonna be a bitch, but I went out and fought a fucking grizzly bear because I ain't a bitch. I was just saying shit like that.
Right? That's awesome, because that keeps us
Who's
motivated.
gonna fight the grizzly
When
bear?
life starts fucking you, be hard and fuck back. Don't be a bitch. I love that
Right?
shit.
Isn't that
That's
funny?
That's wild.
That is so
Right?
funny.
Yeah.
So
that's
you
great.
guys got a great opportunity. You know how lucky you are?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like P. Diddy and all those guys, like I love reading the business success stories. Look, they started in the music business doing YouTubes and doing nothing, like literally nobody's
Nothing.
and they were
Getting nothing for it.
Yeah,
and
they were like A&Rs.
actually they were being extorted by record companies who were taking all their money.
Right.
Same thing happened with Steven. You know, they were these movies.
The like record when you get into music and stuff like that, it is like it's tough. And like you even saying agencies,
They take your money.
So just sign right here, and
Dude,
you sign right here, and then see you fucking later.
Can I tell you something? Like I have a lot of admiration for Sylvester Stallone because they try to give him like $200,000 to do the Rocky script. He's like, no, I'm only giving you this if I can do the movie. And he wasn't an actor. He was a nobody. He was a guy that believed in himself, like you guys.
Yeah.
Like if someone walked up and said, "I'll give you $100,000. I want to own your brand." Oh, I need the money. I'll do that. Right?
Yeah. But no,
you can't do it. You got to believe in yourself.
Because if somebody's willing to offer you that
Someone's willing to offer
somebody
way
else
more.
will be willing to offer you more for you to just be you.
Yeah, and the people want you.
Yeah.
They listen. Who was one of the guys like what's his name? Beef.
What do you mean?
Wasn't he funny?
Yeah, Beef was really funny.
He was so funny. He was probably one of the funniest people. Even
Antonio Donahue.
yeah, he was one of the funniest people. He ended up passing away, but he was one of the funniest people. And Beef would make me laugh. And I had other Hollywood friends that would look at him and go, "Dude, he's magic."
He had like something with his nerves. So like if you would ask him a question like, "Oh, you want like Coke or Diet Coke?" He'd be like, "Coke." Diet. And he'd be, no, regular. And he'd be like, my grandmother would be like fucking twitching everywhere.
But he was hilarious when he did it. And it was like one of these unique things in people, right?
Yeah.
But we're all unique.
Yep.
But we have to, and blended, when you feed off each other, you can make the world a dynamite place. And just don't believe the bullshit. And if people tell you can't do it, I'm like, dude, I can do it because I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the mindset.
Yeah.
Because I've done things that I've made $1 million before I was 40. Right? We grew up in a 23-room house. Jake, we had a 23-room house, had a 50-foot boat, had limousines.
Yeah.
Right? And people telling me, "Oh yeah, you could." You remember? And
you did it.
Yeah, I did it. Now I live out Maui. I live, I have a back and forth from Boston. Right? We have, and people are like, "Oh," and I'm like, I never believed you can't have what you want if you just don't listen to put the blinders on and go forward, and life will be friggin' great for you. Even what you guys are doing, like, we only have X amount of people listening. I'm like, dude, that's not it. You're in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in the game. If we play and we keep going and we, like you said, just keep a straight and narrow.
You got to be consistent. That's the biggest thing is consistency.
And want to,
have a team. You need it.
Yeah.
Listen, people think it's great. Oh, you're a Green Beret. Oh, that's awesome. But you know what? It was my team.
Yeah.
I had the fortunate as a young kid to get onto a team of really good professionals. I'm literally telling you, the guys that I was with were Medal of Honor winners. They were the people you write books about and that you see in movies. These were them sitting there taking a shower, talking to these people. You would literally stand in the shadows of giants. Like they would just, and they were the most humblest men who have done the most incredible thing. And then I find out that the bigger they are up in the food chain, the nicer they become.
Yeah.
But they're just isolated from people because people hurt them.
Look at the guy. Was Roy Benavides?
Roy Benavides.
Have you guys ever heard about him?
No.
If you look him up, he like had something in Vietnam where he won a Medal of Honor, but he killed like a bunch of people. He's probably one of the most.
And
famous.
They put him in a body bag. But anyways, during my graduation, he gave me my graduation, presented to me, and people are like, "Oh, you know him?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's a great guy." I go through a whole laundry list of those guys, and the young guys that we have and that are doing great jobs for this country that are working in the shadows, and you don't even know they're doing it.
Yeah.
Right. But you know what? Listen to this. They watch you.
Yeah.
Like Steven, his cousin. His guys are out in the military, and they watch Jake on the military.
Of course,
they watch him.
It's a pastime.
Isn't that
right?
funny? Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's important to them to give a connection and have humor. My day's going shitty, so what am I going to do? I'm going to go have a laugh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or when the
And
comics go overseas and stuff, that probably means a lot to the guys.
Completely
Oh,
means a lot. Like what
absolutely.
you guys stay in the game, never give up, keep swinging the bat. Start doing podcasts from crazy places. You know what I mean? Go out there and make it happen. And
I would say you're one of the most inspirational people I've ever spoken to.
thanks.
What do you think?
I agree.
Without a doubt.
I kind of want to run through a fucking brick wall and never eat sugar again.
Yeah, because
I don't even want to drive
I'll
home.
tell you
I
one
want to
thing.
run home.
I want to carry the fucking boats. I'll
I
tell you
gotta
that.
carry the
tell you
boat.
what,
You
dude.
know, people say, "Hey, is it an act?" I'm like, dude, you just got to go do it. Go make it happen.
Yeah.
Don't listen to people. Hold the whole laundry
Fuck
list
what
of
people
stuff.
think.
Yeah, you know.
I was on like that track, like really, like I really went. I did a whole thing where I wanted to try and go to a certain place and work for a certain company, right? Say like Boston. So I never ever in my life have I trained like for boxing, but I knew that they had like an outlet. So I dedicated myself. I did like a whole diet. I was really dedicated for 5+ months. Like this was and I'm proud of it in the sense that like. Most people say they want to do something and then just don't end up doing it.
Right.
I really went through the trials of, sparring and a whole new sport and art that I had to try and learn. It was hard. Like, some days I'd wake up and be like, fuck this. Like, I don't think I really want to go to boxing today.
Right.
But I was like, I really want to go out on this show that they have. I want to give it my fucking all and I want to see what I can do. And I really did challenge myself. It was probably like something I'm probably the most proud about doing. Like, obviously didn't end up I got all the way there and there was a bunch of bullshit that
But you
always
don't
happens.
need to get the gold medal. You just got to stay in the game. And you know what?
It was crazy to think because after I obviously break down, I'm crying, I'm freaking out, I'm like, I'm a fucking failure, right? Like I got all the way there, but I was told the whole time by like, in my corner, like, you won't last more than a round, you don't have the stamina for it. But I stood in there in West Virginia, I was by myself, I had no one with me, and I stood toe to toe with a guy and we went for 3 minutes slugging it out, and I lost, right?
But that's okay.
I called my mom, and because both my parents told me they weren't going to watch it. They really weren't interested. They couldn't figure out, this whole content thing, why I was kind of taking a leap. And my mom, I called my mom. I'm hysterically crying. My mom was like, "I'm proud of you."
That's
like,
awesome.
damn, that's some shit. And I was like,
Yeah, you should have been proud.
I'm like,
Hell yeah.
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
I watched it. I was proud of
I'm
you.
like, "What'd you say?" And she's like, "You heard what I said." She's like, "That was fucking awesome." She's like, "You get that temper from your mother." And then that's when I was like, wait a minute. Like,
That's
I
awesome.
won.
It's like-
you
you know
won.
what I mean? Like, that's
a Rocky story.
Rocky
That is what
literally-
Rocky's about. It shows people
He
that
lost,
even when you think you lose, you win.
He just wanted to go the distance. That was the whole point.
The only thing he
Right.
should regret is his gay nickname that he used. That's the only thing he should. The
What was
last
it?
Avenger.
The Last Avenger.
That was a pretty gay
I get
nickname.
I get a lot of my motivation from superhero shit.
That's
Well, now you
awesome.
got Tony Stark.
That's
That's
now,
awesome.
Now I'm
Flasher.
speaking to somebody
You got
like
the
in
Flasher,
person.
yeah.
Yeah,
The
the
Flasher.
so I use that as a nickname. But yeah,
We can start the Avengers right here.
Yeah.
No, but I think what you guys are doing this is awesome, and I think more people should do it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Like if more people are going to do it, no one's going to watch us. That's completely false. Like in business. You know where they put McDonald's and Burger King? They put it right next door to each other because people want to know where to go to get food. Well, it's over there because they're all over there.
Yeah.
So if you make an over there, like with a group of people, like, hey, we're here to promote everybody. Like,
Yeah.
you know what ends up
Yeah.
happening? You become the go-to experts.
Yeah.
Like, oh, ask them where to go. Ask them. Listen, trust me, talent always rises.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right? And people look for different things in everything.
Okay.
And making a movie, like doing a radio show, you can make your own equipment. You
Yeah.
can do your own TV. And I've seen from the Blair Witch Project all the way up that you can make your own movies. You can make, because this is the world of media now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
You've never been into
expendable.
Dunkin' Donuts saying, hey, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Hey, I know him. And I'm thinking, really?
This kid that was just doing a David Goggins impression in my car on the way
I want to
over.
say, hey, tell her, do the David Goggins thing. Make her laugh. Do the David Goggins.
All right. Is there anything you want to plug before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so.
No?
It's been a
Want to
great.
shout out the book? You
Yeah,
guys
one more time.
Shout
One more
out the
time.
book
Way
one
to
more
go.
Shout
time.
out the book. Buy my dad's book. It's
okay.
unbelievable.
Thank you. The Close Protection Operator's Handbook.
I'm gonna
but
buy it,
I have
for
a new
sure.
one coming out, like Bodyguard Dad, and it's going. But again, with Jake's help, I'm going to be doing the.
I'll be doing a lot of TikTok.
I'll be doing some
And
TikTok.
Bobby, they can get that on Amazon, correct? That's
Yeah, on
where
Amazon.
that's awesome.
Yeah, on
Fantastic.
Amazon.
Go buy that fucking book now.
you.
I'm buying my book.
And Jake, do you want to give yourself a plug real quick?
No, I think I'm good.
At Jake Scali on
Jake
At
Instagram.
Jake
Scali.
Scali, Instagram, TikTok. Check me out.
Yeah,
Type your mom
there
out
it
there.
is.
And for us, Bad Brain Podcast, you can find us on Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, all that fun stuff. Like, subscribe, leave us some comments. Tell us we suck. Tell us we're great.
We do want to
just
say
want the information.
We do want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there.
Oh, that is true. This is a
Forgot about
Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving.
episode.
Literally
We-
a Thanksgiving
I completely forgot
episode.
Thanksgiving.
We mentioned nothing of
Give
it.
us your turkey impression. Give us a turkey impression.
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
horrible. All right, guys.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you. We'll see you
Thank
next
you.
week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
We're just